Hi, many people have asked, Anna, how do you cook that wonderful vegetable beef soup and can it? Well, I'm going to show you today. Let's start off with the ingredients. I use 7 quarts of my canned Italian sauce, 5 pounds of ground chuck, some green peppers, onions, wild rice, barley. I ran into a sale on frozen vegetables, so we're going to use a pack of carrots. These are 16 ounce each, 1 pound. Carrots, peas, green beans, corn. For the herbs and spices, we're going to use salt, basil leaves, parsley flakes, onion powder, beef bouillon, minced garlic, stinging nettle, cilantro, oregano, and garlic powder. A while back I bought this pot from a restaurant supply store online. It is a 27 quart stainless steel pot, and this thing has been very handy for canning. To start off with my soup, I break up the ground meat in there and I cook it till it's almost done. And while the ground meat is cooking, I will cut up my onions and peppers in the food processor. When the ground meat is almost finished cooking, I will strain the grease out of it, and then I will add my onions and peppers. Since mass-produced bread now has azotocarbonamide in it, we decided that we'd start making our own bread. And Alan is our master bread maker. These are some hamburger buns that he is rising that I'm fixing to put in the oven. This is Alan with his wonderful homemade bread that he just baked. No azotocarbonamide in this bread.
And no high fructose corn syrup either.
We're going to have that with my wonderful vegetable beef soup. This is my food processor, and it comes in handy because I really hate cutting up onions. So our reservoir here is full of my pieces of onions. That is 2 white onions, 2 red onions, and the way that I do it is I hit pulse for a few minutes. Now let go. Let go. And I keep doing that till they're in little bitty pieces. I also forgot to add that while the ground meat is cooking, I add some salt and pepper. Here is my onions, and for bell peppers I just cut them in half and then cut all the seeds and much of the white part out, and then I'll cut it into large pieces and put it in the food processor. This is my food dehydrator. I have mushrooms in there and they are just about done. I will add them to my soup also. Onions and peppers do not have to cook long. I cook them for maybe 5 minutes because by the time this is done it will be cooked. And I'm adding in my tomato sauce. I had dehydrated 2 pints of mushrooms, and it measured out 1 3/4 cups after dehydrated. We're going to dump them in there too. I am adding 1 cup of uncooked wild rice. I am adding 1 cup of barley, uncooked. And now we're going to stir all that together. I am adding 1 whole container, 2½ ounces of onion powder. I added 1/2 cup of minced garlic. I added the rest of my herbs and spices. I don't measure every single one. And I also added 1 cup of white rice. I then added enough water to bring the soup up to almost a full pot. After it comes to a boil and cooks for a few minutes, then I will start taste testing it and add more herbs and spices as needed. You can add whatever vegetables you like, if you want to add broccoli or whatever. And because of the rice and the barley, this soup will be very thick by the time you get finished processing it. So when you go to eat it, I would add about a half a quart of water to it. You can also add noodles and potatoes. There's many different things you can do with it. But it's very handy to have a bunch of jars of this, and it's very yummy. Another thing I like about it is I'm not a big vegetable eater, but I can slurp down just about any vegetable if it's in a soup. So we're going to put the lid on the pot and bring it to a boil. A pot this large will take a while for it to come to a boil. This is Alan's final product, his homemade hamburger buns. What does that have to do with my homemade soup? Absolutely nothing. But that's what's so fun about making your videos, is you can put anything you want to in them. Like this. That's my dog smelling the homemade hamburger buns. And that's my other dog smelling the homemade hamburger buns. Y'all get out of the kitchen. I do not want dog hair in my food. My soup has started boiling, and I seasoned it to taste. So I'll put my jars in my canner. You only need a few inches of water in the bottom, and you want to add a little vinegar so that you don't end up with white film on your jars. And I've got my lids in the back. They're going to be heating up, and we'll be canning soon. While I'm waiting for my canner to warm up and the water to start boiling real well so that the jars are getting sterilized, I've got together my utensils. I have a grabber that you use to grab the jars with, my ladle, a little spoon in case I overflow my jar. I can quickly get some of it out. This helps get the air bubbles out of the jar. And then the little funnel. The soup is boiling. The jars are boiling. The lids are boiling. I'm going to turn the fire down really low on everything, and then we're going to start canning. Okay, my soup is boiling, my jars have been boiling, my lids have been boiling. I turned everything down, turned it on low. We are going to start canning. So I use my little grabber. You use the little rollers up. The bottom part is the rubber part. I usually put a little water in my jars to weigh them down to keep them from floating. I just pour them in there. Pour it in there. Put my little thingamabobber there, my funnel. Dip it as deep as you can, because a lot of the ingredients will sink to the bottom. Oops, I'm dripping. Boy, does that smell good. I wish you guys could smell it. You want to leave a little head space so it has room to expand in the pressure canner. I have this, but you can use a butter knife. You poke it down in there, get rid of any air bubbles. You take a clean towel or a paper towel and you wipe the rim real good and wipe the jar in case you dripped any soup on the jar. Oops. then I grab the lids like this. Of course, you might have your own method of doing so. Okay, you grab the jar and you grab the lid and you give it a good hard twist. You don't want it to be overly tight, but you don't want it to be under tight, so it takes practice. And so I'm going to finish filling up the canner. Oh boy, this canner holds 7 quarts, so we're going to put the lid on it, turn the heat up, and we are going to start canning. Now what you will be looking for is for steam to start coming out of that little hole right there. And as we can tell, it is doing that. And you are supposed to time it for about 5, I've heard people say 6 minutes, 10 minutes. So I usually do about 5 minutes. And then we will put the jiggler on. This is what my jiggler looks like. Just lay it on there like that, and you wait for it to start jiggling. There's a little pop-up valve right there, and you'll see steam start coming out of it, and pretty soon it will pop up, and that's when it'll really start building up pressure so that your jiggler will start jiggling. Once it starts jiggling, I turn the heat down as low as it will go, but with the jiggler still able to keep jiggling. Then I time it for 25 minutes. Some recipes might say to time it for longer, but it takes 15 minutes to kill botulism spores when pressure cooking them. And I feel like 25 minutes would make it safe without killing a lot of my vitamins in my soup. You do what you feel is best for the safety of your food. I am showing you how I do it.